All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Bottom of the Bill. This week we got our boy Mike Bryant on, Vice President and talent buyer of Dunedin Brewery, also a multi-instrumentalist, playing in several projects such as S.P.O.R.E, Brain Emoji, Follow The Monarchs, Scallop, Zero Context, and the Talking Heads tribute band Road to Nowhere. Mike has also started a new brand called Unusual Noise, connecting all of his unique talents in an effort to support and elevate his team. And on top of all that, he's got a baby mama, which implies that he has a child. So this is probably one of the busiest guys on the planet. Did I get it all out there? Is that correct?
Yeah, but I still think I have time to do more.
That is fucking wild, bro.
How many bands is that? It was like 7 bands?
What is that? Let's see.
I think it's 7.
Yeah. Did I just
7 bands?
Did I just Rain Man it?
Rain Man it, yeah. That's wild, man. How do you? Well, first off, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to
Thanks
Jack's,
for having
man.
me, guys. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's do that. We haven't done the obligatory cheers.
No, we haven't.
This season yet, so we got to start doing that again. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
What was that about?
I felt like I
2
should've
drinks
done
and we each got 1. What's up with that? You got 2 drinks too.
That's a chaser. That's just ginger ale from Kentucky. Call it Ale 8. It's delicious.
I love ginger ale.
I'll get you one later if you want.
Appreciate it.
All right, so the question that I have for you to start off is obviously, how do you manage your time, man? It's wild.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder about this myself sometimes. I've got multiple calendars. So I use a personal calendar now on my phone, on like Apple Calendar. And then we've got a company calendar for like all the bookings at the brewery, all the events we do for beer and stuff like that. And then I make a lot of lists. So that's my biggest strength, I think, over time that I've learned is just to write everything down and kind of make a point to, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. But of course, you can just have pages and pages of lists at that time, which I do. I've got more ideas than time.
Yeah, totally.
So I let whatever bubble to the top, and I don't know. I guess I'm just crazy. I sometimes wonder what people think about all the stuff I do because I start to think about it myself instead of doing it, and I'm always curious if people think I'm doing a lot or if other people are doing just as much, or like how skewed is the perspective of that?
No, yeah, everybody thinks you're doing a ton of stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I like every new idea that you come up with or that you're going, I'm like, so like, is it because the other idea is over? And it's like, no. I was like, so you're just adding on top of it?
Adding on to new things.
Like building your own fucking, Mount Everest.
Yeah.
Instead of climbing it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's important nowadays as an artist to have your hands in as many ventures as you can. I think that's kind of what the successful artists are doing today.
100%.
What do you think keeps you motivated to stay so creative and pursue all these different things?
Mostly interacting with other people. I don't like to do stuff alone. I don't like to make music alone. I sit in my studio and try to, produce beats or write a song for myself, and nothing happens. Wasting time. So a lot of it's just, this is my way of hanging out with my friends and with people and interacting with people. Because I don't want to sit around and just have conversations about soap operas or what the Kardashians are doing or really anything except for what we're doing right now.
That's it's like refreshing to hear that viewpoint, because I feel like that can often be misconstrued as antisocial, or people get this weird thing because they have a certain perception about people like that because it is so focused on the now and what we're doing creatively or with the business, whatever it might be, and everything else just seems so trivial. I have a similar thing with that too. Do you ever encounter that where people like misconstrue like what your
Oh yeah,
whole thing
I've been
is?
called a narcissist before.
Yeah.
I think like to a traditional American lifestyle historically in the past 50, 100 years. Yeah, I mean I'm doing something completely different, out of the box, non-traditional. But I don't really care.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. Like if somebody's got a different viewpoint than you, it's fine. But if it doesn't align with your own viewpoint, you got to kind of look at it and say, is it really worth spending any more time on it?
Right, 100%. That's got to also contribute to, I mean, if you're able to think about it that way and compartmentalize, it definitely contributes to how you're able to pursue so many things because you just trim the fat. Like it seems very obvious to you.
Yeah, and I think if I was completely selfish, I wouldn't have a baby. I wouldn't have a relationship of going on 8 years. I wouldn't be part of a family business that's based on community, and really that's the core of it.
Right.
So I think the people that say that just aren't paying attention long enough to see the other stuff that I do or what it's connected to or why I do it. They don't even ask. So
Right. I feel that, man. What's been the role of the brewery in your in your journey in life?
Well, I mean, when the brewery first opened, I was in middle school, so I like chimed in the brewery with bagpipes and all that stuff. And my dad had this goal of building a family business that was cool enough for us to be interested in, because we did not like his other job. His other job was a general contractor building like Domino's pizzas and Papa John's, and me and my sisters had no interest in that. So he decided he was going to, go and do his own hobby, which is brewing, something creative that he enjoyed for himself. And eventually he thought of us as like, oh, the kids are going to take that over. And people would always say, oh, this will all be yours one day. And every time in my head, I'm going, I don't want that. Like that's not what I want to do. I want to make music. I want to make art. It's always been music. And there's never been another goal in my life. But the brewery has eventually given me a platform. I came back to kind of help the family business because it was kind of being run poorly and just mismanaged because they weren't able to give enough time because it wasn't making money. And their other business that they had to focus on was what was keeping it afloat. So they had to focus on that, keep the money coming to the brewery so that it could keep failing ultimately. And they were about to sell it. They were going to close it down. This is 2009. They kind of were considering that. And I said, well, hold on. Like, I can see some of the issues that are going on. I had just moved back to town and said, why don't you give me just some time to try to fix it and get it back on track for you? Because we had to get rid of somebody who, just was in the wrong spot. I'm still friends with that person, and they have their own brewery now. But they needed their own spot, and I kind of just started taking on roles there. All I wanted to do was start a kitchen garden. Like, I was big into permaculture and gardening and like sustainability. So I wanted to basically do permaculture design for the brewery, and that was going to be my business. And it's been a blur since.
Is that element incorporated into the business now, or do you guys have that aspect?
Like a permaculture thing?
Yeah.
I design systems in the business that are sustainable, and we try to do as much as we can for the planet and stuff like that. It's very difficult these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've had awards for being the most sustainable business in downtown Dunedin, and have some awards from that kind of thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
What do you did you go to school for business, or did you what was your background in college?
It was the opposite of business. It was philosophy and religion.
There you
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think kind of allowed you to take the perspective of I can fix this business? Let me in and do my thing.
I knew that there was no wrong answer at that point. You study philosophy, you realize there's how many viewpoints, which one's right. Like, that's the whole concept of philosophy. What's truth? And going down that rabbit hole to the point of basically like my favorite philosopher and who I ended studying with was Nietzsche. And it's the concept that starts existentialism, which is where we create our own meaning and for ourselves. And that's how you have purpose in life. And taking that, I kind of knew that what was going on with the brewery was not successful. It was hurting my dad's feelings. It was making him feel terrible about something that he had a lot of passion for. And I just knew that was wrong. It wasn't working. And I didn't know if I had the right answer, but I figured I could try. And I could at least know what his goals were and try to make that happen. And his goals were basically make beer and have fun. So for a while there, we just never made any money. I pump it back into the bands, into the community, into the entertainment, like doing hospitality at OBJ or Halloween and stuff like that. We take every little dime and throw it back into the community. So that's okay with our family. We're not here to make a big old pot of money or anything like that. just want to sustain our happiness.
Well, that's awesome, man. I think the first time that I ever knew that the brewery existed was when you were doing the hospitality for Aura. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the one where we did on the landing strip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
In the middle of Central Florida, it was like an old school landing strip.
And we did
awesome.
a schedule of beers.
It was awesome.
Where it was like every 2 hours we put a new beer on tap. It was the craziest idea I had because I was like, oh, we got to like really show up for this beer fest or for this music festival. And Daryl Wolf and Cameron had invited us just because they knew that bands that were playing at the festival were being supported by the brewery. And so they're like, do you want to come sponsor the music festival? And I said, certainly. Didn't know anything about music festivals at that point, except for what was going on in like Sertoma, like OBJ, smaller stuff. And we kind of went crazy. And then I realized that it's a lot of extra time and spinning wheels to not necessarily make any extra profit. And that doesn't just mean money, but like gaining something that sustains and moves forward.
Right.
So, that was the craziest thing we've ever done for hospitality, but then it kind of got more traditional. Like people love beer. It doesn't matter if you're bringing 5 to 12 different varieties or 2. As long as it's good beer and they like it and they're enjoying themselves and having fun. That's all you need to do for hospitality. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite festivals ever. And I just remember it's like, you just had your beer, not tin. It was like a trailer almost, right?
Well, it was a trailer, and it was up against the like lookout tower.
Yeah.
Was above us.
After like the sun went down and everybody went to bed, that's what I was doing, is going on that lookout tower and then stealing beer. 100%.
I'll tell you what, it was the
because
crazy.
there's not like a lock on it. You just open up the fucking draft, and then but I had at least like 10 of those apricot peach ale beers. Anyways, thank you.
That was the crazy.
And I'm just sorry.
I think we made an impact because we didn't like know what we should be doing or shouldn't be doing, and we just basically had fun.
I know.
We had volunteers, and like one of my volunteers, God bless his soul, I won't say his name because he's a great musician. But at the time, he decided to drop some LSD and come to his shift. And so, like, people are coming up and trying to talk to him, and he's off looking at, like, whatever he's looking at, and it's in the middle of the day. And so, ultimately, I learned a lot about, dealing with hospitality and working inside of the party, because that was my biggest, like, first learning curve on that, which is what we do at the brewery. We're creating parties, and we have to work while that's happening.
Right.
And the same with you guys, when you guys come and you're working, you can party a little bit, you can have a beer or maybe a cocktail, but you can't, get drunk and still operate and play your guitar great or play your keyboard just as great.
Right.
So it was a big learning curve. And that, I'd say, one of my first lessons in like towards just the success of what we all do, in the music scene.
It was a good festival, bud. You've been staying.
Yeah, I know. I wish I would have been able to go.
That was the first time I saw Dopapod, Kung Fu, Papadosio. And it was the first time I've seen any of them ever for the first time. I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Magic Beans were there too.
Yep, Dr. Famous.
Dr. Famous.
Did a crazy set.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was
Must have been
awesome.
like overload. Especially if you've never heard of them before.
It was pouring rain too.
It was
Remember
pouring.
the mud?
Oh yeah, and I was having fun time with a couple of letters as well. And I what was I trying to say? That everybody was playing with each other. That was the best part. It was like those 2 side stages where there was like one set was over, another one began right next to each other, and the musicians would be like, this sounds good. And they would just go to the other side of the stage and start jamming with them. It was awesome.
Super cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Man, I wish I would have been able to go to that festival.
You didn't even know what jam music was then?
Not at that point, no. I wasn't.
It was like,
wasn't
that was
ready
like
for.
2010.
But there was a lot of
11.
electronic jam music.
It was so dope. It was
Like
Jam
Johnny Rabb
Tronica.
was there, and like
I fucking
Biodiesel. Remember
I miss
Biodiesel?
Johnny Rabb so much. Please come back to Jam Tronica if you're watching Johnny Rabb.
Please.
He's the fastest drummer in the world.
Really?
Literally, he's got the Guinness World Record.
Him
Really?
and KJ Soccer, they're the 2 that need to be in our scene.
But Biodiesel was so good, right? Oh, God, they were the best.
Yeah,
Such a nice guy, though. I think he's Canadian, too.
It's got to be.
It took me a while to get into the jam stuff because I discovered like the Allman Brothers first in like early 20s, and then I was like, I like this a lot. And then as I started getting a little bit older, it was more like I started opening up my mind to like synthesizers and different electronic elements. And then now like one of my favorite bands of all time is Dopapod, and like that whole Kung Fu was amazing. And I'm stoked that Tim is playing
With Lotus now.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Lotus. And
But
he
just
did something
played
at
at
your brewery.
Dunedin, right?
Yeah, he just did a 4-day residency. So or 3-day because he had to leave a day earlier. We planned on 4, but then he left for practice or rehearsals for Lotus tour. But yeah, he did a couple of happy hours on his acoustic guitar, and then put together a band on Thursday with locals, Mike Gary and Austin from Road Joma, and I can't remember his name. He's going to hate me. Miguel Lantigua from Tropico Boulevard. And so just put together a band of locals and played shredded over top of that.
Awesome.
So made their dreams, like these are people that look up to him as, as like a idol guitar player, like their favorite, and getting to play full sets with them. So props to him.
We opened up for them at Jackrabbits a few years back.
Kung Fu?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Tim was just like super nice. Like, I went up to I very rarely fanboy over anybody, but I went up to him and said, hey, man, I just want to let you know that I study your licks and your playing, and I just think that you're fucking amazing, man.
Oh,
and he was so nice about it, like not weird or like, some guys can be like, all fucking entitled and shit after
100%.
that. Yeah, but he was super cool and chill about it. So, yeah, I mean,
he's a great guy to just kick back and hang with for sure.
And it's cool, man, because I've been able to like just hit him up on Facebook here and there, and he's always responsive and like remembered me too, which is I don't know. That's a cool. I try and take note of that and try to apply that when I'm talking to people, because I think that's just a cool element to
I think that's why we all applaud him being a part of Lotus and getting that gig.
Exactly.
Because if you think of like, there's a lot of guitar players out there that could have taken that gig, but I can't even imagine somebody else because he's so genuine. The rest of the Lotus guys are all very nice. I don't know if you've met or interacted with them.
Yeah, of course.
They're all great. So he just, I think, fits with that band. They're a band of nice dads now.
Nice dads.
They look like really nice dads. The most shreddy dads out there. Heady shreddy dads.
Heady
Nice
shreddy
Dads
dads.
is
It's
a
good
great band. Just nice dads.
Actually, I think Mark Lettieri has a band called like Dad Band or something.
Dad Band?
Yeah, it's just like they used to like 80s yacht rock covers.
Perfect.
It's so funny. The guitar player from Snarky Puppy, just like in a yacht rock band.
Oh man.
So I'm curious, you were talking about like learning curves. What are some other learning curves that you were kind of realizing as your role with the brewery started to kind of grow?
Like just things like big lessons and stuff?
Yeah, like realizations that you may have came to, or things that you took on that you were maybe unaware of in that position.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to keep it within, our genre. I think when it came to booking bands and building that, I started just by booking the same thing that was already there. I mean, there was already local musicians playing regularly. I didn't want to mess that up. Colonel Bruce would come through there every couple months, Bobby Lee Rogers, but it was always more in the Americana kind of like jam, Southern rock stuff. And I just started kind of searching for music outside. I realized that people want to dance and they want to, like, there's two different types of listeners. There's listeners like us who play music and want to watch someone play. And then there's people that want to dance. There's everything in between, but those are the two big sectors at my spot. I want a place where musicians can come and hang out on their day off and enjoy it. And I also want to make sure that people are coming in to shake their butt.
Yeah.
And so funk kind of took over the big thing. And funk has become a huge thing in our scene in the past 8 years, if not the biggest component, I would say. But over time, I, got to meet a lot of people, and I always wondered, people ask me, how do I do what I do? I've had people in town accuse me of buying a book that I guess has phone numbers and emails to call, the right numbers. I still don't understand how it works because just because my number's in a book doesn't mean that the person that bought the book is going to have access to me. But
you bought
like a book of connections.
Necronomicon sort of deal kind of book.
I tried to look it up on Amazon because I was like, that sounds like a great book.
Yeah, right.
But ultimately the answer that I always say, which is I think one of the biggest lessons, is I am able to do what I do, which is put on pretty high caliber shows for free, and with amazing musicians that could play much higher paying gigs by making friends, and that's about it. I mean,
because I'm not by any means trying to say that it's not a great place. It just doesn't make any sense really when you think of the big picture. I'm like, what's the cap of the room?
It depends. If we have I always say 200 plus.
Yeah.
The fire marshal, if you have the tables in there and stuff like that, it's like 140. But when you take those overhead doors up and it floods out into the beer garden's 3 times the size of the room. So,
of course.
technically, like when Bernie Worrell played there, it was flooded all the way out to the front, and there was probably 500 people in there.
But it's just so strange because that's when you walk in at first, you're like, oh, okay, and the stage is like it's so small, it's an adorable stage.
Oh, yeah.
And then like you said, like fucking Bernie Worrell is playing there.
Yeah.
Like
Corey Henry,
Corey Henry's story. His band comes in there, and I happened to be sitting at the bar after work, and having a beer before getting ready for the show, and the band comes in and they kind of look around and they're like, all right, we're the band playing tonight. Where's the other room?
Exactly, right?
And my bartender is like naive. They're thinking like, what are you talking about? So they're like, oh, there you go. No, that's where you're playing. And they're like sitting there taking their hats off, scratching their heads going, what?
Yeah.
And Corey walks in. Corey's got his headphones in because all he does is listen to music. And pops them out and they're like, that's where we're playing. He's like, cool.
Yeah.
And that's why Corey Henry's where he is, because he's not going to sit there and close a door. There's no problem with playing that.
Right.
In his opinion.
There was I read this article. I can't remember the guy's name, but he has credits on like Kendrick Lamar tunes and just a bunch of other stuff.
Thundercat?
No.
Terrence Martin?
Maybe he's a keyboard player.
Oh, this is a sax player I'm thinking of.
So he was talking about just staying humble as an artist, and he was like, if I ever turn down a gig, it's never because I think that I'm too good. He's like, understand that I have credits on this, and this, but I'm never above taking a bar gig or a wedding gig or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. And that's played a big role in why I've been able to be so lucky to do what I do, because it's just staying humble and realizing that you're never above anything. You know?
I mean, imagine the last 2 years. If you didn't have that humbleness, what would you be doing as a musician, a successful one? I mean, a highly successful artist. What were they doing if they didn't bring those barriers down? They were sitting in their home, not going on tour, because all the shows were canceled. So I mean, the people that don't adapt to just whatever opportunities there, like you're saying, I don't know, they're kind of shutting the door on themselves.
Totally. It's a wild perspective. It's a wild thing to me when artists get their heads too big. It's like either you've never been humbled before, or just you didn't have to work to be where you're at because you don't get it.
Yeah, they haven't been like had a rough patch for a long time at that point, I'd say.
Totally. There was I was listening to this podcast.
Our whole fucking career's been a rough patch. There's no way
You're probably doing great, though.
Yeah, we're doing great.
That's how you learn.
It's definitely learned a lot of shit.
No, we're so humble, and it's really taking off for us.
It always helps to be humble when you say it.
Yeah. No, I'm probably the most humble person you've ever met.
Yeah. There's
Ridiculous.
I was listening to this podcast and I can't remember her name, but she plays in a band and I can't remember the band's name now, but it was her and Gary Clark Jr. and they were talking about different stuff. And Gary Clark, it was so just calm, cool, and collected. But he's just like, yeah, I mean, we used to play 4-hour gigs at bars. You make whatever money, but a lot of time you were just playing for tips. Mm-hmm. She was like, wait, you used to play for 4 hours? And he was like, yeah. And she was like, I can't even imagine. We do like, half an hour shows, whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, you came out of the LA scene, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Like you never played a 4-hour gig.
That's where you only get gigs by doing 5-minute shows at first, then 10-minute shows, then they give you 15, then they allow you 20.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Incremental like growth is what they want out there.
Exactly. But I get all that shit too, and that's great. But man, there's something about that grind, and the most successful musicians that I know that moved out there were the ones that came from other places doing this grind, But yeah, it's just wild to me, man.
Did you ever do cover band stuff?
I've almost all my life said I would never play a cover song.
Why not?
Never. I mean, I've done them like we did punk covers like back in the day. We played a song called Big Women by GBH and stuff, and just nonsense and silly songs. But because I like originality. I want original art. That's just all I stand for and all I've ever wanted to be known for. But now I play in a Talking Heads tribute band. And it kind of flipped my lid on it because it's more like doing musicology course on the band.
Yeah, exactly.
So you get to learn not only about the culture of the band, if you're doing it right. Like I went and watched every video I could, read books about their biographies, and listen to the songs, and then kind of try to come at it the way they would. We don't play, none of the Talking Heads shows are the same. Like you listen to the studio stuff versus a live show, they're very different, which is kind of, it's unique, but it's not necessarily unique in our scene. The jam band scene, it's the same songs, but they're always different.
Right.
And so it's kind of like that. But all I wanted to do is make sure that I could honor, what Bernie Worrell brought to the table there, which was some weird stuff. And I think I do that for them. They have told me that I'm almost like what gives it its like weird cred, because they're also, everybody else in the band is highly trained. They teach students and stuff like that. I'm a by ear guy. I never went to school for music outside of learning clarinet and bagpipes. Everything I play today is just self-learned and self-taught by ear. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I add a wild element to the group.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was the same way too with like the not wanting to play cover bands and that kind of thing, and there was almost no way around it when like growing up in South Florida and that scene. So you end up doing it, but then there's this thing where you realize like, oh, you can like authentically learn how to play certain styles if you learn that kind of stuff. Not to say that you can't. I mean, I'm all about creativity and writing and all that stuff too, but there is an element of playing a style authentically that you only really get when you learn like certain songs within that style of music,
Yeah, I think what I learned over time is that I was naive. I thought that there was like some kind of original sound that I could create, like all these times, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to create something that nobody else has done, like there's a sense of pride or something like that. And then you realize that all ideas are based on other ideas and shared amongst communities and people being, hanging out and stuff like that. And that's why I kind of like have let my guard down on a lot of idealism. Like I used to be pretty idealistic. Nowadays it's just, I like to think all practical.
Yeah.
I will say if my 19-year-old self knew that I was in a fucking cover band called the Hangout Express, he would have killed himself then.
Just to keep it from happening?
Yeah.
So it proves time travel doesn't exist.
No, I mean, and it's good. But I think that, it's like you said, you're naive about it at first, and then you're like, oh, shit, like, you can learn things. The more you know.
Yeah, I learned to plagiarize in college. In my creative writing teacher, I went to I went to the craziest school ever. There was no majors, no grades. So we like learned with multiple teachers in small classes with a small amount of students. And in our creative writing, the thing they taught us to do was plagiarize. And if you plagiarize and you pay attention to the detail and you just attend to what you're writing, it's kind of like the same as playing a cover song. If you attend to it and you pay enough attention to it, you can kind of get an idea of maybe where they're coming from. Why did they make this choice?
Right.
And then you can kind of learn to make choices and put that in your toolbox.
100%.
And I don't mean like word for word, but like take the structure of a song and rewrite it. People do it all the time. I'm sure you guys have done that in small ways with experimenting in songwriting.
Yeah, mostly
100%.
Dave Matthews, just like the way that he writes songs, and then you just do it exactly the same way.
I don't think that my songs sound like Dave Matthews at
Wait, are we
all.
an unpopular opinion on
Not
it?
yet, not yet. And that's not unpopular. That's what everyone thinks.
Billy also thinks that Humphreys sounds like Dave Matthews. So if that
I used to
gives you
think
anything-
that. I used to think
no.
slightly.
I think Brendan Bayless sounds like Dave Matthews.
Yep. I'll second that.
I don't
Crushes Dave Matthews out of the water.
I don't hear that at all. I don't know. It's wild to me that's an opinion.
We know what you're listening to, so. Davey.
Speaking of while we're in the realm of music reviews.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We're gonna head to the bottom of the Billboard segment.
I'm so good at segues. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Okay, the song was.
Well, bottom of the Billboard. Yeah.
Yeah, bottom.
You want to
yeah.
keep explaining it or no?
Oh yeah. So for those who aren't aware, bottom of the Billboard is basically a segment that we just started doing. Each week, either myself or Billy will recommend a song for the other person to listen to, and then we review that song. And if you know anything about our dynamic, we typically hate each other's styles of music. So
Hate's a soft word.
yeah, it's a very soft word. Yeah, despise is a better representation. So this week Billy chose.
I chose one of the 2000s hits, "Say Anything's Alive with the Glory of Love." One of the most underrated songs of an underrated album of all time. It's emo, pop punk. I don't know what you want to call it.
I had never heard of it.
Neither did I.
Did you listen to it after?
I did listen to it.
Okay, all right. But yeah, it's that vein of that 2000s emo, except like the musicality of it is so great. The lyrics are amazing. It's literally about his grandfather's experience in the Holocaust. That's what it's about. and it's just like there's time signature changes, slowdowns, and like the fucking lyrics are just perfect. I love that song. I know every word to that song, and I don't even like emo music at all. I just can't get into it. But that song and that whole band, I love.
Okay.
What do you think?
I thought it was a little rapey.
It's not rapey.
A little rapey. He's like, I want like literally the first lines in that song are like, I want to see, like, I want to like.
They're in love.
Yeah, but
it's like teenage love. They're talking about their grandparents.
Just look up the lyric. I can't remember the lyrics exactly, but look them up. The first line, you're just
when
like,
I see you, want to do you right where you're standing. Sorry, copyright.
Yeah,
of course.
In the dark.
How's that rapey?
In the dark, while
in
you're
this foyer, in this dark way, right in plain view.
Yeah,
that's not rapey.
That's literally definitely like right in plain view.
He's not saying I'm going to do you. He says I want to.
I just have like, this picture of you staring at some woman, just like saying that to her. Yeah, whatever you listen to that, so you're just like, yeah, that's what I want to do.
If I like sing talk the lyrics of the song to any girl with just a little bit of a chip on, I'm in.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? This song's amazing.
So Billy, it's the album's like a rock opera?
No, it's not a rock opera
it's
at
like
all.
Some kind of
it's
like
just this one song that is like that. The rest of the song is all, and it's very. I would say that it's very sexual. The whole album is. There's more songs. It's not even my favorite. Well, it is my favorite song off the record, but there's a couple other ones that are really good too. But a lot of them are sexual.
There was some other stuff about that I did like though.
Yeah, what'd you like?
I liked. There, like throughout the bridge, there was this section where kind of like you have like this sextuplet kind of thing going in the background, and it's over like while it's keeping this 4, it's kind of straight ahead 4 on the floor kind of feel. So I like the counter rhythms there.
Okay.
The part you hate.
I'm just like it's just. You're a robot, man. Like you do all the love and like the passion and like the colors.
I don't like that. It's very teenage angsty.
Duke, the colors.
Very, very teenage angsty. Not into all that.
I don't think you ever were a teenager. You grew up to be a 40-year-old fucking man that's like twice divorced and a fucking alimony the size of your goddamn head. Like fuck you.
I came out the womb like this, bro.
There's a black void where your heart should be. And I don't understand you, man.
So anyways, back to my review.
The boys like that one.
I will say that was good.
Thank you.
I like the guitar tones a lot too. Very clean, but like punchy and full sounding.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I like the arrangement. I thought it took you to some cool places. Yeah, I mean, overall, I like the song. The lyrics were a little weird. And I'm not into his voice. His voice is very whiny, like an emo band, or it's very angsty.
It is an emo
thing.
band. Yeah.
It's not into all that. I got over that when I was like 12, but it's cool. The rest of it was cool though.
All right. So, what do you think? Actually, what do you think about it?
I mean, to be honest, like when I think of emo, I think of like punk rock and stuff. So to me, it's like close to that. I like it a little more rough around the edges. It was very well produced. I will say that.
Yeah.
It's a soft punk rock.
Great performances too.
Killer performances. Yeah. I didn't get far enough to listen to the lyrics that far to decide whether they were rapey or not. But
they are.
I was more like when I first listened, second listen, I'm thinking like just to the cadence and tones and stuff like that. Very well produced song. And well written and structured and all that stuff.
It's timeless too, man. That's what I'm saying. Like,
well, it's not timeless because I heard it instantly was like, oh, early 2000s emo pop punk.
It's going to be timeless, and only time will tell. It's ridiculous thing to say. But all right, so what do you think? I knew we need drum rolls. The fucking same.
Yeah, I'd say
get on that, boys.
I'd say make it on the bottom of the billboard.
Kidding. You think so?
Yeah.
All right, fucking. That's great. Well, we're 3 for 3.
Yeah.
So maybe we do like the same things.
We don't like the same things. I wouldn't put that album on to listen to myself, but I can appreciate the creative value in what they're
not all
doing.
hits off that album. There's 2 of them that are really good.
What I forgot to say at the beginning of the segment is that we do have a playlist called Bottom of the Billboard that this song will be on now that we've agreed they can go on there.
Absolutely.
And then also we do have a playlist of all the artists that have been on here too, just the Bottom of the Bill playlist, so go check that out as well. So, anyways, let's get back to the podcast.
So happy.
Yeah.
3 for 3.
I'm glad you guys came to an agreement on
I
that
know.
one.
On
Yeah.
all of them, we came to an agreement. I was the last one. I was like,
You were not into the Adele one.
I
though.
wasn't, but we got.
You felt forced by the Hearst
we
brothers.
need a found. Yeah, I did. I got peer pressure for sure. We need
gave
a foundation for a
they
playlist.
gave it like 90 biscuits, bro.
Our playlist can't be one song long.
Yeah. Well, maybe
get some fluff.
Yeah.
Or maybe that'd be hilarious. It's just one
This is
song.
one
long.
song. What we should do is start opening up to like if we start doing the other idea we were talking about, start letting people vote on the songs, you know, and then that way they can decide. Because if it's like one of us that decides, it's like okay, well, yeah, but if the people decide, then that's like a more accurate representation of what should be on the playlist.
Absolutely, and I don't have to like lean on confirmation bias by you.
Then you guys could listen to a song that neither one of you guys choose.
Yeah,
that's
vote it.
I like that too. Yeah, it's like, what is your suggestion for bottom of the billboard? Like,
Yeah,
like
there
a
you
once
go.
a month type situation.
Anyways.
Email us at bottomofthebill@gmail.com.
Well, don't
what
just
do you
give
think?
that out.
No, bro, trust me. Yeah, we're flooded.
down.
Yeah, they're taking that down. So I want to talk about some of the current bands that you're playing in. Where do you feel you get? So 7 bands we talked about.
7 bands. Yeah.
So is there a band where you feel like your voice shines the most in?
Yeah, I would say it's Follow the Monarchs or Zero Context. Zero Context right now is still live. It's still just improv. But in the studio, it's songwriting. So that's where I get to explore more of just production techniques and playing with different musicians and trying to produce songs with different creative minds. Try to learn as much as possible while putting out product. But Follow the Monarchs as a player, I think that's where my voice really comes out, as to the history of me as a player and playing 100% what it is I want to play on guitar, which I started on drums in the band. Never played drums in a band ever, but we didn't have a drummer, and it was just me and Alex Sears. And my band Veered had kind of like dissipated. So Alex had just moved to town, and we started jamming. He was in Veered for a minute, fell apart, but I was like, well, I'm not going to pass up the offer, the situation of playing in a band with Alex Sears, great keyboard player. And so I would play drums, and he would play on synth, and we would just jam and noodle around. And then Joe Knoble moved to town, started working at the brewery, and of course, why not have Joe come and play? And then we found a bass player that I've known since middle school. I met him the first time I went up and talked to him. I heard he was a great bass player and that he could play the Seinfeld
Nice.
theme song.
Yeah.
And this is like, 8th grade or 9th grade. And I was like, hey, I heard you play bass. Can I come over and listen to you, like watch? Because I just wanted to see somebody play the bass like that. Never heard of anybody playing bass that well, especially someone in my age group. And so he joined the band, and eventually I was still learning how to play drums. I had a lot of power behind it, and I was, excited to play on the drums. But ultimately, I was still learning how to, write songs on the drums, how to structure it. I was going off pure emotion and stuff like that. And eventually, we were kind of hitting a wall with like our perfection, because we wanted to make our music sound a little bit tighter. And I can't play to a click, let alone, track with headphones. It would be my first time. So we decided to invite Brad Elliott, who was formerly with Cope, and was their last touring drummer, and brought him in and hit it off perfectly. And then eventually Alex moved back here to Jacksonville. So now it used to be more of like a Pink Floyd meets punk rock type of thing, but Alex definitely drove a lot of the like chordal changes and the Rhodes and organ sounds that gave it a really close to Pink Floyd-y vibe. And without that there, it's more guitar. So now it's closer to like post-rock, psychedelia. I don't know. It's hard to describe at this point.
You guys feel like is there like what's a band dynamic like when you guys are writing, or just in as far as like the roles go?
I've tried to keep it as democratic as possible. That's kind of something I'm working on currently, but pretty much like a garage band. We get together on Mondays, we hang out, we jam, mostly just jam. And then eventually we record all our sessions. multi-track them, and then I'll go back and, pluck out stuff that sounds good or make tags along the way, and then kind of mix those down just roughly, send that to the guys in a Dropbox, and then somebody might be like, oh, we should play that again. And then that'll become like a heavier part of our jams, and then eventually it becomes a song, and we record each take of it as we're, developing it. So like one song, we have a song called Wish Her Name Was Pete, and we just knocked out an ending for it, just through us jamming, and we were at the end, and like we just kind of like started doing something that we hadn't been doing, and I was like, no, we can't let that go. So we went back to it, and we wrote that ending real quick. We're getting quicker, I would say. I've got a music mentor, like music. I guess it's just music mentor, KJ Saka from Pendulum, the drummer, and
what
he's been
from Pendulum?
Yeah, I meet with him weekly on Zoom.
Wait, I was about to say, it's like, he fucking lives in Dunedin?
No, but he did come to the brewery and do a performance. But I'm talking about the drum and bass drummer?
Yeah.
He also played with Conspirator.
I didn't know he played with Conspirator.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Pendulum is awesome fucking drum and bass. Do you know Pendulum? It's like
No.
Drum and bass rock band. It's the guys from Knife Party. That's their modern, like their more recent, I would say, like popular act.
Okay.
But Pendulum's like live rock band drum and bass from England.
Okay.
And so KJ gives me a lot of, he's taught me drums, he's taught me Ableton, and now I've just got him as a music mentor because he's just a wealth of knowledge.
That's a hell of a fucking musical mentor.
So he, asked me what I'm trying to do and gives me homework. And so my homework recently was to try to delegate a little more in the band, take a little more control, have some goals, try to get the guys to set goals together. So that's what I've been doing Headstrong, is just trying to make more things happen. So you asked me, like, how do I do as much as I do? It's writing it down and planning it, right? So like you set a plan, you got to do it or lose it.
Right.
And so I'm trying to instill that within the guys.
That's a really smart way to function as a group, because we've been doing the same thing as well with Side Hustle, where we sit down and we like write goals, and I think
smart goals,
obtainable goals
that's
to
part
kind
of
of reach.
smart.
Yeah.
That's the A.
Yeah.
Capital A.
Yeah, big A.
It's helped with just keeping everybody motivated, I think, because then we have like a little bit of direction, and I think it's a big part. And also like you were saying, delegating is a big thing, because like one person can't do everything.
Yeah.
It's been such a big help.
I've felt like basically the conversation with KJ started with me saying that I felt like I was taking on a lot of hats and roles. I do all the graphic design, I do all the promotion. Beyond them sharing the event and stuff, I do the booking, I'm doing the set lists, I'm coming up with ideas as much as possible for how we can succeed with our music and how we can get it out there. Like setting a date for recording. And I tell them, I'm like, if you guys are happy just getting together on Mondays and making music, I'm right there with you. And then maybe one day that won't be enough for one of us, and we'll have to figure that out. But if we all are in this together, you got to have a reason to be there. And so giving out, like having everybody have a task or a specialty beyond just the guitar or the drums or bass or anything keeps us, occupied, keeps us excited, keeps us growing.
It makes everyone feel like they're buying in on a different level too, I think,
100%.
Yeah. And do you feel like your like kind of running Dunedin has helped with kind of taking on a band leader role, like as a leadership role in any sense?
Like you asked me if I'd ever been to, went to college for business. My only management skills are band management skills. I don't think I could do well managing a team of 30. So I have to delegate to different management, like a kitchen manager, brewery manager. And so those are, to me, little bands, little ensembles. It's more of like becoming more of a snarky puppy or an orchestra at that point. You've got your string section, you've got your woodwinds, you've got the timpanis, you've got the percussion. And I try to play the role of the director. Everybody's practicing and doing their work on their own, but when it comes showtime, you just got to make sure somebody's keeping the click and keeping time and making sure that people are being held accountable.
Totally.
Creating the rules for that, the rule sets for accountability.
Totally.
So I'd say, 100%. Kind of goes both ways.
Right.
I learned my management skills in high school by having a punk band and trying to make it,
Right.
at 15. Like, what that means back then. It means fucking off and hoping for the best. Having fun and hoping somebody finds you and says, hey, here's a bag of money and a record deal.
Did it work out?
You know, like you don't even know. No, I went to college for philosophy and religion.
Well, I just thought maybe it
where
did.
are you stripping now?
Stripping.
But yeah, it's definitely. I try to use everything from both sides. Everything's just one experience for me.
Yeah, man, it's wild how I feel like people don't understand that aspect of the band thing, where it's like it's fun to play shows, we all love it, but there's this whole other element where you have to understand the business and leadership side of things in order to really keep it functioning, and it does become like operating a business, you know. It's wild, man. It's wild.
I feel like you like it more than actually being a musician.
No. I do. I'm
dead serious.
I do enjoy it. I do enjoy all the stuff on the back end because I've had to learn to enjoy it. Otherwise, if I hate it, then I won't do it. Right.
Or you got to pay for it at that point. So you got to make more money and then pay someone that does enjoy it.
Exactly. And at some point I will definitely love to outsource all that so I can just focus on being creative. But for the time being, yeah, I've done a lot of research and I've learned a lot, and I've talked to I have mentors as well outside of music and the business side of it that have helped me come to certain realizations, and so yeah, I've grown to appreciate that side of it definitely, but nothing gets me off like being creative, especially in the studio. Yeah. That's like where
That's true.
That's where
we need to get you back in the studio and get you out of this rut, bud.
Yeah.
Doing so much business. I swear to God.
Business is a rut.
It is. But I love the studio, man. More than performing, because I think that it's a playground where all these options are fully available. You can make it as close to perfect as you want, and I don't know. There's something about that experience that I just really it less pressure. I think too. I have like terrible performance anxiety.
No.
What, like when the red light's on, you crumble a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. Well, especially in a live setting, where I'm just like
in front of people
more than anything. And I don't, so.
Well, you're a great guitar player, and like you're doing great every time I've seen you play.
I appreciate that.
I'm sure
man.
you hear that before, but shit.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. But it's one of those things where you're just like, and when I'm feeling good and I'm having a good night, I love performing. It's like my favorite thing in the world. But when I have a bad night, I could kill myself type thing.
What?
It's like you hate.
Give this guy some help.
What's I guess yours is creating too. Then isn't
I'll tell you what, I do a lot of improv projects.
Oh yeah.
And I walk away all the time going, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah. Right.
But while you're sitting there walking away the stage saying, "What the fuck was that?" shaking your head, other people are coming up to you saying, "Hey, I enjoyed that."
Totally.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's so hard to transcend that self-criticism, self-doubt, all that stuff. But that's what makes us grow anyways. Like that's why we throw ourselves into these situations of improv.
Of course.
We don't know if it's going to succeed. We don't even know what we're going to play.
Right.
So even like, improving a guitar solo or something like that, you're throwing yourself to the wolves, your own wolves.
Totally.
The wolves of the guitar strings,
I like it. That's my favorite. 100%. No business, no recording studio. It's being on stage.
Yeah.
And exploring that, especially with improv with jamming. That was my favorite.
Yeah.
It still is my favorite, I mean. And just don't get you, man.
Yeah.
Never will.
No, I love the improv stuff too. It's a different thing, it's a whole different mindset to kind of put yourself in. But
let me put it this way. I'm the most unschooled person in my scene when it comes to like musicality and stuff like that. I play with like crazy good people, and I wonder why they play with me, because I sit there and I go, what do I know?
It doesn't matter.
I don't know. I can't, like you give me, sheet music, I could probably look at it and after a while figure it out. But most things I'm just like, the reason I do a lot of improv is because I want to make noise. I want to make something that people have never felt before. And sometimes it's abrasive. And so I get away with it. And luckily I've made enough friends that I can have a rhythm section that backs me up, that will keep those people with their asses shaking. And I can do the other part to make people feel uneasy. And then we bring them back and then they're like, oh, thank God, but they like it.
Yeah, totally.
It's like getting drunk, you get intoxicated, you feel uneasy and you're kind of like anxious, or, smoking pot or anything like that. But once you come through the other side, you're like, it's fine.
I believe they call that The pocket.
That's
Well, they call it couch lock.
Couch lock.
The pocket is couch lock.
The pocket.
Billy, we were on the road and we were talking about the pocket one time, just like having like a just that pocket groove, you know. And Billy started rolling his eyes like, "There's no fucking pocket, man. Like, what does that even mean?"
No.
Musicians are just
He's
talking
taking me
shit
out
when
of
they say
context,
that.
but no.
That's what you said.
No, that is not what I said.
What'd you say?
It's that nobody really knows what that word means, and everybody has a different definition to it. And I think it's
would agree.
hilarious. I would love to like do like a little tour with like all the big wigs or in improv or whatever and funk and be like, "What's the pocket, man?" And just call it the name of the documentary, The Pocket.
But what about what's in your pocket?
That's
What's in your pocket?
something in my pocket for you.
I like that.
I do agree, Billy. I think what you're saying though is correct. That I've heard usually two different schools of thought on that.
Yeah.
One means repeating yourself perfectly. The other one means in the groove, and it doesn't mean perfectly. One of them's more of an emotional groove, and one of them's a technical groove. And I think people mean those two things.
I'm telling you,
true.
we get 10 musicians in the room asking them the same question, and none of them are going to say the same thing.
You know what?
It's ridiculous.
But they will all agree that that's what's happening when they hear it in the moment, and that's the thing. It's one of those. It's like trying to describe color, right? It's like orange. Well, we don't know how to describe orange, but we know
It looks like an
see
orange.
it. Yeah, but we know that. We know what orange is when we see it, right? The same thing with the pocket. It's like you can't really describe it, but you know it's happening when you're hearing it.
I don't know. It's a little fishy to me. I think it
little-
doesn't exist. I'm being facetious, but that's like I don't know. It might not exist.
So I'm curious as to what's the goal overall. I guess you kind of described it with Follow the Monarch, but with Zero Context and both those projects, what are you aiming for with both of those things? What do you want to see happen?
It's a good question. I like feeling around in the dark mostly, so I don't have too grandiose of plans. I'd like to record more with Follow the Monarchs, play some gigs, probably start playing at venues that none of us play at because of the style of music. It's a little more hard-edged. We have a lot of great, supporters in like our circle and stuff like that. But in the jam scene and funk, it's a lot more light. We're playing something a little more, I don't know, headbangy and hardcore. So I'd like to find where our audience is a little more.
Yeah.
Just to see if there is an audience for it. Either way, we're happy to play the music because I think, and Brad said it the other day, like we think people enjoy it because we enjoy it. And like that's all that really matters at that point. So anybody else in the room that's enjoying the music is a bonus. But yeah, I'd like to see where it goes just as a band. And the reason for Zero Context is because I'm always hesitant about hitching my wagon to other people. Mm-hmm. And I think part of that is when Alex moved back to Jacksonville, which he had to do. And we're still great friends, but it was kind of like, we'd been going hard in the paint for 3 years. He was my right hand at the brewery. We had 3 projects together, so I was playing in S.P.O.R.E. He joined Follow the Monarchs, and then we started My Weird Uncle with Jamie Newitt from the Heavy Pets. And we played a lot of music together. And so, I'm commit 100%. And so when someone kind of has to leave and things change, it can affect you in different ways. And this affected me a lot because he, left a gap in not just my musical life, but work life and just as a friend, like not being there and being like one of my main rocks. So Zero Context is kind of my safety net. It is my way of working with anybody I want, and it's just me. There's no band, there's no commitment to anybody else except for in projects. So that's more of me making, like, as a producer, a record producer.
So do you ever plan on going live with Zero Context as like a DJ kind of set, or what do you want to see happen with that?
To me, Zero Context, it depends on the situation. It's ironic because the name is Zero Context, but it's all about context.
Right.
So far, I've done 4 Zero Context gigs. One was a live drum and bass trio. I always use Ableton live with a push 2. As a controller, I'm doing things like sampling, adding to the atmosphere, but I'm not a melody player or anything like that. I let the other guys do the thing. So that was drum and bass with just Vinny Svoboda and James Adkins. And then the next time I did it was on my birthday. We'd had 12 to 13 musicians on stage improvising. That's just a crazy freak jazz jam.
I'm sorry, you say 12 people on stage?
Yeah.
That's
Jesus
wild.
Christ.
More players throughout the night, but we can only get so many people. And you know how small that stage is.
I was like, yeah. Like,
2 drum kits, 2 bass amps, 2 guitar amps,
but the
3
stage
keyboard
is half
stations.
the size of this room right now.
Yeah.
Why are you putting 12 people on stage?
That's why we do it on Thursday and fill the extra space.
When I played with the Greenhouse with y'all with S.P.O.R.E, and I was just like, okay, so we're somehow I was on stage and we were all on stage, and then I was like, so S.P.O.R.E,
How are we gonna get it?
how are they fucking gonna do that? Because that's how many people's in
I think
S.P.O.R.E?
I was
It's just
sitting on
7,
Chris's
right?
back while he was playing drums that
Yeah.
whole day.
It was
that
cool.
tight. Yeah,
It was
there's
cool.
7 of us now.
That was a great show.
Yeah, the band keeps growing somehow.
Yeah. So how'd you get linked up with those guys? I mean, obviously you go way back, but I mean, how'd you get linked up with playing with them?
To be honest, I sat in with them a couple times. Alex had moved down and Joe had moved down. We were already playing together, and so we had a couple S.P.O.R.E shows, like at Spring Beer Jam, Oktoberfest, and another show. And 2 of those shows, Alex was like, "You want to sit in?" I was like, "Sure, yeah, of course." And then the third time was, "Hey, do you want to play the whole show?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah." And then we played up here at 1904. And I played a full show with them, and things have just been going off. I mean, no rehearsals. I've never rehearsed with those guys. They've got 10 years under their belt playing these songs, and they don't have recordings out there, that's easy to find or anything. I'm working on that, trying to basically produce, a single at the moment to get some more music out there, but it's hard to find the music. And so I had to learn just live. Alex would sit there and be like, C minor. And I'd just go for it, and he's got to focus on his thing, and I can't ask any questions. So it's like, look at his hands, hope for the best, make some noise.
Well, it's hard to put lightning in a bottle. How are you going to put that on a record? You know what I mean?
Well, it's tough. So like Matt Weiss is now a guitar player in the band, and the same way, thrown to the wolves.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's great because it's the best way to learn it.
Yeah, totally.
Matt Weiss, was the first time that Matt played with y'all, was that at OBJ?
Yeah, he sat in, and then we ended up keeping
there the whole
him. We
time.
ended up keeping him up there for like the rest of the set.
I said, it's like,
we
all right,
trapped him.
you're in the band now.
Yeah, we
the
pretty
end of
much trapped him up there.
That set at OBJ was so awesome. Okay, so it was at the first awakening of COVID, where it's like, COVID's over. Yay.
Yep.
2021 is like, it's the first festival. Everybody was so happy. And Greenhouse Lounge played, and then S.P.O.R.E crushed it. It was like the best show of the festival, without a doubt. And just the vibe of the whole place, everybody was just so happy because, like, we beat it, guys. We beat the pandemic. We're done with it.
And then December came.
Well,
2020.
Yeah.
but it was fun during the time.
Oh, it was great.
I was one of the few one of the many that fell to COVID in December. Second time with it. It was brutal. But Matt, he crushed
Matt
it.
Weiss.
Matt Weiss, he crushed it when we played with you guys at Dunedin last time too. Man, he's a great addition to the project. I think.
We've done 2. I guess we did Halloween after that. We had him up there the whole time, and then the Dunedin show that you guys play with us, and then
Oh, that's right. I was playing with Side Hustle, not Greenhouse.
At Dunedin,
When
yeah.
S.P.O.R.E played.
yeah.
Or did we do it twice? I can't remember. I played. I wish
now.
I wish I had counted how many times I played at the Dunedin Brewery.
Now I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't. I think it was Side Hustle. I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, we played there a few months back, and he was playing with them.
Just recently.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for you to go, Jamie, look it up, but you haven't yet.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of just making noise, what is unusual noise?
Unusual noise is my way of breaking away from the stigma that I've dealt with for, I guess, almost 10 years now, which is the idea that I am just a venue. I book all the shows. I've booked over 1,200, 1,400 shows at one single venue, Dunedin Brewery, in the past 10 years. And it still is not necessarily seen as a brand for promoting music. It's seen as a place where music is at. But I see other other brands come up for, say, promotional stuff, local promotional brands start booking shows, and instantly they get recognition because there's no name for what I'm doing except for Dunedin Brewery. Primarily, it's a brewery. and then a restaurant. And it's a venue too. But because of traditionally there being like a 3-tier, the artist, the promoter, the venue, I'm trying to bridge that gap and create a little more robust narrative for the whole thing. Plus, I have aspirations outside of booking at the brewery. I'd like to go and be able to buy and rent out a larger venue and grow with the bands that I, kind of break into the market. Because what happens is bands like Pigeons, blow up, and I can't keep growing with them. So I put money down up front, help them, get, some attention in our area. But the next time through, I can't help them because I'm not booking at Crowbar where we can start doing tickets and start really, counting their, I don't know how to, like a lot of agents these days want to know ticket counts because that's your business model. It's like going to the bank for, asking for a loan. You got to show that you're making so much. And I can't do that with a free venue, and that's unfortunate because I'm able to do a lot with the free venue, but I want to do so much more. I want to, grow with these bands. I don't want to keep starting over. So Unusual Noise is kind of my new brand for basically booking shows and promoting music. I'd love to put out physical copies like vinyl records and stuff like that of live shows and even bands that I'm a part of or want to platform. And not have it just tied to the brewery. Because if Dunedin Brewery does a show, and like let's say Dunedin Brewery sponsors Side Hustle, but we're going to do a show at Crowbar, how many people are going to get confused and show up at Dunedin Brewery?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And how many tickets did we lose because they didn't know? Because we need to sell those tickets before the show if possible.
Right.
Just to lock it in. And yeah, it's kind of hard that way. So Unusual Noise, the brand itself, I think it says a lot about what I like in my aesthetic of music, what I like to book. Not everything I book is unconventional, but a lot of the stuff I do is, kind of on the edge, a little bit underground, a little bit, unique. So and
it's kind of like a media conglomerate sort of deal.
In a way, yeah.
Like a little bit of everything.
100%.
I love that.
I'm trying to I've always just wanted to do, help promote things, and it's tricky in this world because, on a Facebook profile or Twitter or anything, you got to within, so many digits say what it is. So you guys say like, I'm doing a lot of stuff. How do I represent that? I can't just make a Facebook post every day saying this is all that I'm working on.
Right.
I can't put it in my profile. There's not enough space for it, especially on Instagram.
Yeah.
Everything's limited now to, like flash text, small amounts of writing, and I'm trying to do a lot more than that. I'm not trying to contain myself to so many characters in a tweet. I want to say what I want to say, and I want to say it fully.
Right.
So to me, it's just creating, like I said, that a universe of what I'm up to, and it just if somebody comes up and they're like, oh, I don't like this is noisy or weird, I'm like, well, it's called Unusual Noise. So like if you showed up, good on you, but don't complain that it's noisy.
Yeah.
Because I like noisy.
Totally. Do you want to see? Do you want to see like kind of like a label at some point, or like a promotion company, or like kind of a little bit of everything?
A little bit of everything. Yeah. Mostly, it's multimedia is the way I see it. I do graphic design. I do video production. I do music production, play music, produce shows, put out as many products with beer and food as possible. I mean, I'm trying to do a lot, and I feel like I'm the only person that can represent myself. I'm too busy trying to produce to hunt down somebody that's what are they going to do? Invest in me and then tell me what they want for their return? No thanks. I'm not, no investors in my life. I'm the only investor, and I'm never going to be told to do otherwise because I need to have complete autonomy and freedom to be myself.
That's dope, man.
Yeah.
And I hope other people do that too. I know sometimes it's hard and you got to take the bag, but that bag comes with consequences.
Yeah.
And you got to know who you're hooking up with, whether it be bandmates or, employees or who you're working for. So, yeah, make smart choices out there.
Yeah, for sure. And it gets real hard because when you start having all these aspirations to grow and do all these things, all like the only real barrier is money most of the time.
100%.
And so when you start kind of surrounding yourself with money people, it gets easy to be like, hey, so what about this? What about that? And there are strings attached for sure. I mean, everybody wants a return on their investment, or at least to know that if there isn't, that there's some kind of system in place, right, that protects everybody. But yeah, it is very important to either say fuck that, or just like you said, know who you're jumping into bed with, because
Yeah, I mean, it's odd because doing free shows and making guarantees to bands, it's almost unheard of, kind of in a way. I mean, people do it as in clubs, but to the caliber of bands that I book, like I'm sure that everywhere else you guys play as side hustle is ticketed
shows. Yep.
Just packed out the
so-
door. You're lucky to get on the wait list.
Yeah.
But, for a ticket. So we're doing all right.
I need a Patreon for that.
No, I wish.
Just for the tickets.
I wish we had more spots on Patreon, and we just don't at this time.
We're doing well.
We're not doing
Scarcity
bad.
works. But people, suddenly, people come out of the woodwork because they think I'm ready to just throw money at people, just because, and it's like I have taste, I have wants, I have desires, I'm a creative myself, which I think is the thing that makes me different as a talent buyer. I'm not just somebody that loves music and wants to have fun and feel good about it. I want to make music happen.
Yeah, totally.
And I want music to happen a certain way because I have a certain taste. And I've always had a certain taste. And I've always been like, this is not for me and this is for me. And I want more of what I like in the world, just like anything else. Like it's like teaching somebody something. The better that, if you guys are teaching, like if you're teaching a guitar student, you're making the world better because it's going to be musically better, and that's what you care about in the world. So if you have better guitar players out there, they're not competing with you. They're just making the world a better place for your ears.
That's an awesome viewpoint, man. I think that's like you kind of nailed it on the head with the with how unique your situation is over at Dunedin Brewery. Because like you get all these big acts in, and you throw the guarantees and all that stuff, and there is no burden of ticket sales and stuff like that, which is wild in most scenarios.
They don't even have to make a post on their social or put it on their calendar. I've seen it. It doesn't mean that I'm going to want to work with them again, but it's like, just take the money and run. But as long as it's successful for me in some way, not every show's making a bunch of money or something like that. But as long as we're not losing.
Right.
Over and over and over, we can keep doing what we're doing.
Totally. So I kind of want to touch base on the Anti-Brewery a little bit. So what is that for people who don't know?
The Anti-Brewery is the opposite of Dunedin Brewery. It's a spin-off side project that we started back in 2017. Dunedin Brewery is a staple around Dunedin's 25 years. Oldest in the state of Florida, continually run distributed brewery. It's very hard to make change. Very, very hard. I want to be a creative, outlet, and when you make a lot of creative beers and the people are coming in and they don't care about them and they just want that beer that used to be there, I kind of realized that it was a very traditional type of clientele. Not everybody, but our clientele is a lot of tourism. We're Florida's oldest, so people come there just to witness it. If they're into beer, they're going to Florida. Dunedin's got 7-8 breweries in town. Let's go to the granddaddy of them all. It's just made it hard to be creative outside of music. So Anti-Brewery is kind of our way of doing whatever whatever comes to mind, and not caring. So the only rule about Anti-Brewery is that if everybody else is doing it, do the opposite.
Yeah.
Craft beer at that point, when we first started it, we were doing like glitter beers, milkshake IPAs,
Sounds delicious.
Sugar bombs, like basically like candy for adults, not beer, in my opinion. Obviously, it's got beer in it, but when I'm not a sugar head, I don't like candy. I don't really care for that. I want a lager or an IPA. I want to taste the malt and the hops. I don't want to just taste malt or just taste hops or just taste anything. I want a good balanced thing. And so at Anti-Brewery, we just it's like a punk rock type of, people say it looks like someone's dad's garage or unfinished basement. It's got plywood on, like raw plywood on the walls. The ground is, unfinished concrete.
It's a gutter punk aesthetic.
Yeah.
100%. And the aesthetic is gutter punk. I mean, it's basically anarcho peace punk. It's
right.
The aesthetic is based on the band Crass, which is a UK punk band that like famously sabotaged their career because they would just they weren't really activists. They were more like the Dada artists of their scene. So they would go out there and do nonsense and create fake news and try to get outrage by doing stuff. And they had very politically motivated lyrics and stuff like that. Songs like Penis Envy and stuff like that. They're very feminist and very, anti, like pro-vegan, very much anarcho peace punk. So wanted everything to be perfect in the world and there not to be any harm done to other people. So it took their logo, and they're basically anti-capitalist. So I knew that they would not send a C&D. And I'm like, Steve Ignorant if he does that, then I've got him by the balls.
Yeah, right.
And I would have marketing all over the place. I would change my logo, but I would say, this is why.
Yes.
And that would just ruin his career because he's notoriously does not care about capitalism and sabotages it.
I love that whole dynamic right there is like, I just love that. It's so
steal
funny.
someone's shit that won't sue you.
Yeah, it's so fucking funny.
It'll look bad.
It's paying homage to an idea that ultimately you would use the idea that they hate against them if they tried to use the idea.
100%.
It's so fucking
That's
funny.
like making Rage Against the Machine t-shirts, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
What are they going to do? Burn it? Hey,
Well, I don't know. I saw the ticket prices. I'm pretty sure they would come after you
my
at this
God.
point.
Yeah.
They must need money.
Speaking of your beer, though, I'm sorry. I got to get up because I put your beer in the freezer. I'm just scared it's
Do
going to
not
explode.
let that thing pop.
Oof, that'd be...
They're probably right on the verge.
So what do you think is like the wildest thing you guys have come up with there? Because you guys just you guys just test shit out, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much like everything was one off. We haven't opened very much since pandemic because it was a very small space, and ultimately it's a side project. It still exists. It's just pretty much on hiatus at the moment until things are a little bit more secure because staffing is still an issue in the hospitality industry. So I don't want to take any chances on that venture because it's not a moneymaker. It's a side project. It's purely there to have fun and let my mind go wild.
Gotcha.
And let us explore things that we can't do in the other place. So wildest thing we've done there, it's a mix of names and beer styles. So like wildest beer we've done was one of the brewers came up with a recipe for something that mimicked a painkiller cocktail, which had like coconut cream in it and stuff like that, and like nutmeg. Like it was basically a tiki drink that poured out as a beer, and it was very, very strong because it was based on a barley wine, so it was like 13%, and it lived up to its name. So like style wise, I would say that was the weirdest one. Names were really what we caught people's interest with.
Yeah.
Our IPA is called Horse Meat.
Horse meat, yeah.
So
the
like
horse one.
I'll take a pint of horse meat.
Yeah.
I just liked hearing people say that.
Yeah.
Like making people like if you really want that beer, you're gonna have to say this. And my baby mama came up with one time, which is the most controversial. It was called Pussy Clips.
Pussy Clips.
It's two words: puss and eclipse.
Yeah.
And it was a red beer. It was a pink beer, I guess. But yeah, when you say it and you ordered it, it sounds like I need a pint of Pussy Clips.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, our whole goal is to make people feel uncomfortable. We have a sign that says, "This is not a safe place."
This is not a safe place.
Like it's got a murder clown, a clown with a balloon that says murder on it,
yeah.
hanging on that sign that says that. Like when you walk in there, you're in a different world. Not in a bad world. You are in a safe place. We're not going to let somebody, hurt anybody or be an asshole. But if you're not okay with cuss words, loud music, like I even say like politics, they say that shouldn't be in bars, politics and religion. Bring it on.
Bring it on.
Like let's have that conversation. Yeah. And that's what people are like, oh no. But you can have good conversations about that. Like depends on who your host is.
Totally. Yeah.
I don't let people walk all over each other. I don't let people we don't. One of the biggest things I stand for in my like hospitality, especially like with our staff and at Dunedin Brewery specifically, is we don't tolerate intolerance and we don't tolerate people being assholes to other people, which luckily we don't really have to do much in Dunedin. Like if somebody's being a crazy asshole outside, the customers will literally, I've seen them turn around and be like, get out of here if you have a problem. Like, we don't want to hear you complain anymore about, this other person looking at you wrong or whatever it is. So Dunedin's a very chill town. So I've always tried to make sure that is a big part of our thing. Same thing with the Anti-Brewery. We booked somebody that was controversial at a certain point, and people accused me of booking someone that would make other people feel unwelcome in Dunedin. And I was just like, well, what are you doing by trying to tell me that I should cancel this show? Telling somebody that they're unwelcome in Dunedin. And I told him, I said, if this person really is what you say they are, and they basically said they were a neo-Nazi or something, I knew that wasn't the fact. I could see long story, but I could see why somebody would lead to believe that. But if you did a little diving and you realize you're like, what are they talking about? Like, it seems like it's a little bit far-fetched. And I made it clear, if somebody has something hateful to say, I will be the one turning the hose on that guy. I'll be the one fucking, hosing him down for saying something like that. But I don't think that that's the case. And, I don't know. I think I stand for equity, equality, fairness, treating people good at all costs. And I've always stood for that. So for someone to try to claim that, and I did my research, and if I would have found something like that, I would have been like, nah, it's not going to happen here.
Still, it must have been kind of expensive for Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson would have been great.
Yeah.
Just get him out there and let him just argue with people.
Ben Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro. Oh, that's the opener, probably.
Wait,
That's the opener.
Are you telling me you afforded Donnie to come to the Anti-Brewery?
No, so, my whole thing is like, to make,
2 more years.
You got to make people uncomfortable. You just got to make them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I know, who I vote for and stuff like that, and it doesn't really fucking matter. But it's like it's always the opposite of what people think.
Totally.
And it's funny that I've always been apolitical. Obviously, the last 8 years have been almost like everybody wants to be political. Everybody's
hard not to.
It's hard not to have those conversations. And
Fever dream.
I'm trying to get back to the just apolitical. I don't really care what their viewpoint is, as long as they're not espousing hatred in my spot. Then I don't care if you believe the Earth is flat. I really don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't bother me. It would bother me if you were like the White House scientist of NASA or something like that. Because if you're doing that, you should probably know something different. I don't know.
Well,
but it's just like everything else. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but I do think there's a right or wrong way to treat other people.
Totally. Yeah, 100%, man. I love that.
anything goes at Anti-Brewery, Mike's saying.
I'm trying to get into the next segment, Unpopular Opinions. I'm full of them.
We're fucking there, bro.
We're fucking there,
We're
man.
here. Welcome to Unpopular Opinions.
Yeah.
That's a great
Great to
segue.
have you again. You're always welcome.
All right. So typically the way that we do it is Billy goes first.
What? That's not a thing.
Or I go first.
Oh, sorry.
And then the other person, whatever.
Our guest is last.
Yeah, our guest is last.
Is that what you wanted to say?
Basically, yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
I'll get you there.
Having a rough day.
Telling me, bud.
Okay, so go ahead, go first. Bill.
I don't
want to
say this because it's like we were so good about everybody's got I don't know, peace and harmony in the world. So a couple of days ago, I was watching some nature documentary, and I saw how polar bears eat food. And one of the things that they do is they go around in the North Pole, I think that's where they're from, North Pole, and they'll wait to where giant openings of ice are, kind of not giant openings, small places of ice that open up, where beluga whales have to eventually come up to breathe because they're mammals. Anyways, so polar bears just claw at them every time that they go, and then eventually they die and they pull them up, and that's how polar bears eat.
Yeah.
Anyways, my popular opinion is I don't care if global warming gets rid of polar bears. Straight up. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm saying global warming, a couple inches of water on the coast, Polar bears go, don't care.
Hey, you're just gonna raise my property value because I'm like at least 2 blocks in.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna. If, I'm not.
I'll
I'm
take
not,
that beachfront real estate.
So let me be.
I'll miss my neighbors though. Shit.
So let me be clear. This has nothing to do with me against global warming being a thing. Like, it's definitely a fucking thing. I think it's awful.
You just don't care.
I'm just saying, like, the least important thing that's gonna happen. 100% polar bears.
You don't think we should protect the polar bears?
No. They're the top of the fucking food chain, and like, just if they're really that smart or whatever you care about, just take them all and bring them back in. Just capture them all.
They're also great swimmers, so I think they'll be all right.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of those like Arms of an Angel videos where it's those polar bears that are like skinny, they're like skeleton polar bears, and they can't even eat beluga whales. And I say, that's a win for the whales.
Bro, but you know what? Have you ever seen on the opposite end of that? Have you ever seen orcas try to when they go after seals?
Yeah.
Like when like seals will be on a piece of ice, and the orcas will actually create waves that knock them off the ice,
man, dude.
and then
Nature's
and
brutal.
then with one orca on the other side to catch the seal when it falls off, and then they just so in your world you just get more orcas doing that,
No.
and less polar bears scratching at belugas.
Orcas are not mammals, are they?
They are mammals,
they are
absolutely.
mammals?
Would you ever watch Free Willy or what?
No, I wasn't allowed to. 1993 was a little rough in Kentucky. It's a little too racy. What was the soundtrack?
You weren't allowed to watch.
It's one of my favorite Michael Jackson songs is from the Free Willy. Keep it in the closet.
What a weird song for Michael Jackson
It's
to
a good song.
sing, right?
Anyways, I don't care about polar bears. That's my unpopular opinion.
Okay. So that's a good one.
Thank you.
My unpopular opinion is not quite as controversial, but I think that Paul Simon is better than Bob Dylan.
At what?
At just-
Horseshoes?
At being a songwriter and just being a musician overall.
I mean, they're. I understand what you're trying to say because they're both in that like Americana sort of vein, but who's first?
Paul Simon had Simon and Garfunkel around the same time that Bob Dylan
That's
was
not
doing
true.
it. Yes, it was the '60s.
What was actually what year did Bridge Over Troubled Water come out?
Was it '69?
1970.
Okay, 1970. Okay.
Fucking Bob Dylan was like so before that.
But Bridge Over Troubled Water wasn't their first hit. They were around they've been around since like the mid to late '60s.
But that was the one that like made it famous.
I don't care. He's still better.
Okay.
Right?
At what?
At being a songwriter,
Yeah,
writing
Bob
lyrics,
Dylan didn't
being
really
more
mix it up
melodic.
at all, did he?
He did with the band.
What about
and all that.
comparing like their song lists, like how many songs they wrote?
Well,
Because you got to find a metric to say who's best.
Well,
in some
I
manner.
mean, Paul Simon has so many albums out too. If you include Simon and Garfunkel stuff, and then the Graceland album, and then everything moving after that, and then he just released a new record maybe like a year or two ago, which I will say doesn't hold up to his heyday, but it's still really good. Bob Dylan had a similar trajectory, and he changed it up with the band and went electric for a while, and he had some great stuff in the '80s also. It's not to disparage Bob Dylan. It's just to say that Bob Dylan gets a lot of credit. And I heard this comparison recently.
He was first.
Not because he was first.
No, because he was first is why he gets a lot of the credit.
No. But I've heard this.
I mean, why are we arguing about this? That's just the fucking thing that happened.
I heard this comparison recently. And I was like, that is an interesting comparison. And I think that Paul Simon is just a much more talented and creative writer.
I love Vampire Weekend. He's doing a hell of a job with that.
What do you mean he's first?
Who is? Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan.
First at what?
I like that
At being
question.
famous. At doing.
What does that
no,
do?
All right, well,
That's Billy's metric for talent is
Hold up,
fame
hold up.
and
It's not wrong.
popularity.
He's not wrong. on that.
at being famous in that same genre, that Americana genre.
I don't think
Tell
he
me
was
that they're
first.
not.
Can we look that up?
Oh my
is there a way to
God!
look that
I'm
up?
not. I'm
Who
saying
came out
between
first?
Paul
Where's Paul
Simon
Simon
and Bob Dylan.
Is he New York too?
Yeah, he's New York.
New
I'm pretty
Jersey.
Same
sure.
like okay.
I think.
Yeah, we're about to find out right now
Bob
who came
Dylan's
out.
from
Who
Brooklyn or
was
something like
first?
that. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I like Paul Simon a hell of a lot more than Bob Dylan.
That's what I'm
I was gonna
saying.
say, I would more likely listen to like Simon and Garfunkel than Bob Dylan.
100%, and that's all I'm trying to say is that like lyrically, musically, he was more interesting. He literally brought in like an African rhythm section for the Graceland record.
1,000 didgeridoos.
Yeah, and I love that Bob Dylan. Not that he wasn't creative or didn't explore things, but it was just it was so much more obvious what he did, whereas Paul Simon just brought. It's like you never knew where he was going to go, and all these elements that he would bring into the. He was constantly pushing the creative boundary, I think. Whereas Bob Dylan was, I added a band, and we sound like a rock band now.
Yeah, but like
it's
he's
cool,
definitely not like the staple sort of like these times they are a change, and like he doesn't get that. Paul Simon doesn't get that.
I mean,
that's why I'm saying
listen
he
to
was
Diamonds
earlier.
on the Soles of Her Shoes. That's pretty.
No. I'm saying like All on the Watchtower. Like there's so many
about
more
the
like
Boxer. I mean, like there's so many amazing like hits with Simon and Garfunkel.
I'm saying, that there are great songs that he wrote, but Bob Dylan's way bigger.
Bob's got like a Peace Prize, right? Like a Nobel or
like he's like America's fucking son. Like that. Like Paul Simon. I'm sorry,
he was like the writer of American like soul, like not the soul of America at a certain point.
So it's unpopular for sure because we're fucking talking about it. But
if we're having
what was your original opinion, anyways?
That Paul Simon's better than Bob Dylan.
No,
and Billy's
metric
metric
would be pretty unpopular.
Yeah, it's unpopular.
It's unpopular, but Billy's metric for talent is also how many people like what you do.
Wow,
and
that's
I'm not very successful at all.
At the same time, I just think that Paul Simon is very timeless. Bob Dylan is like he should have a head on Mount Rushmore. Like that's the end of it.
All right, well, it is unpopular.
Those colors do not run. That's America.
Do we know who came out first?
So Bob Dylan's first album came out in 1962.
Thank you.
Simon and Garfunkel's first album came out in 1964.
Okay.
Paul Simon didn't release a solo album until I think sometime in the 70s.
Till afterwards.
Right, yeah, it was early 70s, I think, when he started doing his solo endeavor. But yeah, it's a 2-year difference, bro.
I get it, but Blonde on Blonde versus Bridge Over Troubled Water, who wins?
Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Are you
What an amazing song.
the
Anyways,
album, Dumbo?
What's your unpopular opinion, Mike? What do you got for us?
I think Spotify is beneficial to the artist.
I just said this last week, actually. This was my unpopular opinion last week. I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah.
When Dre was on there?
No. When we haven't released it yet at this point, but the Hearst brothers from Canada, we did a Zoom call with them. My unpopular opinion was that I don't hate the streaming platforms. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
He's going another
do I need
step.
another opinion? Or
He's saying beneficial. Yeah.
I think it's beneficial.
I want to hear, I'd like to hear you dive into this a little bit.
It just seems like a lot of people talk about it. And I think today Neil Young pulled his whole catalog off of Spotify to try to protest them having another creator on there. And I don't really listen to the other creator. I also don't stream Neil Young on Spotify.
Yeah.
Haven't done that since I've had Spotify. I think it's kind of, we could have just said that, but I think it's silly what he thinks that, Spotify needs to respond to him. Spotify is an opt-in.
Right.
We don't have to do it. Everybody that complains about Spotify doesn't have to interact. They can go and find other ways. And I think that's good. I think that what the problem is that people are expecting something other than what Spotify offers. It's very upfront what Spotify offers. I don't think it's going to make you a lot of money, but I do think that it's beneficial because it makes it very, very easy to share.
Totally. Yeah. And
that's the good part.
The other side of it, the other, just to kind of build on that idea, is that there's also they're not the only streaming platform. So there's multiple across the board. And you start to calculate the income across all of the platforms, you can start to see real numbers generate from that. And furthermore, the only people that are really complaining about Spotify and the modern day methods of listening to music are people that made their money pre-streaming, right? The artists coming up today, they might have a problem with it, but it's like you don't really get to have that much of a problem with it because you didn't make your money off record sales.
It's kind of like complaining that someone didn't put you on their festival lineup.
Exactly.
It doesn't do any good.
Exactly. And
it definitely doesn't get you on that lineup.
Exactly. And so I wholeheartedly agree with you. I also think that if you really want to be mad at somebody, be mad at the labels and the royalty companies like ASCAP and BMI that are striking the deals with Spotify.
Yeah.
You're mad that your $10 a month is going to Justin Bieber. That's not Spotify's fault. That would be ASCAP and BMI's fault. For saying, yeah, that's how we'll distribute the wealth. And then the record labels that are collecting all the income. I think there was a metric that came out, something like labels are making, something like in the tens of millions of dollars an hour off streaming platforms. And where artists aren't seeing a lot of that money.
I think it says like artists are making like 16% of the entire like pot.
Share. That's which we can look at that and we can say that's insane and we can talk about that thing, but you can't be mad at Spotify for striking a deal with people that own the rights. The people that own the rights are the ones you should be mad at.
Yeah.
You know,
they're doing what's best for Spotify.
Totally. And if you run a business, that you understand that concept.
Why don't they just set it up like they used to do for cell phone minutes? All right, just listen to this. All right, so like you put $10 a month in.
Oh, you want a credit system?
I want one, almost like a jukebox. It's 1 cent per play, and then that's where that cent goes. This is where your play went. And then what's that? 100 times 10? That's I can math.
100 times 10 is
10,000.
10,000.
1,000 songs that you get to listen to a month, or you can do more if you want to. But it's always just a penny. But that penny goes straight to that person.
Yeah, but I know, Bill, you'd believe that whoever owns Spotify should be able to do whatever they want with Spotify.
I totally agree
He
with
doesn't.
that.
He's kind of a socialist, so he's not into that idea. But
Democratic socialist, yes, without a doubt. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a paradox. But
So,
yeah,
I mean, if Spotify was a government agency, I would agree.
Huh?
If Spotify was a government agency, I would 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Because it needs to be fair at that point.
it's just you just get it, bro.
Have you finished it yet?
Huh?
Your soapbox. Have you finished it?
I'm just agreeing with what you're saying.
If you throw a little water into the soapbox, that soap slips.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
right.
it's fucking take me down.
Yeah.
I think
eat the rich,
I think it's odd that people complain about it. I think it's odd that people complain about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm always criticizing social media and stuff like that. I should have just said I think the internet's worse for the humanity than it is beneficial.
That's your Instagram
this
handle,
point,
isn't it?
down with the internet.
Down with the internet.
Down with the internet.
Follow on Instagram. The irony in that.
Or don't.
Yeah, or don't. Whatever. Down with it all.
On Instagram.
Fuck
Fuck
it.
the internet.
Come log in to talk to me, like for me to talk about why not to.
Yeah, it's fucking great.
I fucking hate this internet. Anyways, follow me on Instagram.
Well, Mike, thanks for being with us today,
Yeah,
man.
man.
This is a
Thanks
lot
for
of
having
fun.
me.
Hey, break a leg tomorrow, bud.
I hope not. I've done that like at shows before. It's not good. I have bad knees.
You know what I meant.
Was it like a
yeah, but
Dave
it's
Grohl
like
situation?
a personal thing. I've busted my knees so many
understand.
times.
Is it a Dave Grohl situation where you just walk out there or not walk, but wheel out there and just continue the show?
It's crutching. I can't afford a wheelchair or somebody to wheel me out there, so it's more like crutches out there.
well,
yeah,
it's
once
very-
I jumped off the drum throne and hyperextended my knee and then kept playing that. You just got to keep playing, man.
It's like a budget Dave Grohl then.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Dave Grohl situation is my new garage band cover band.
Yeah, Dave Grohl situation.
Dave Grohl situation. DGS, dude. Let's go.
All right, well, make sure you follow Mike's bands.
Yeah.
Or do you guys have stuff out on Spotify? At least
Follow the Monarchs, self-titles on there with me playing drums and Alex Sears on vocals, and things have changed since then, but still a good representation of our catalog for sure. Other than that, zero context stuff. I'm working on a release with basically doing some singles with different friends, like micro-brewery from the Heavy Pets. Hopefully get like you guys involved.
Yeah.
love
Because
to,
my
man.
whole thing is just to like
need
set up
another
small little
keyboardist.
events. Exactly. Oh, I love keyboardists.
All right, I don't know.
So that, and then yeah, you can find Scallop stuff on there too. It's just live recordings from the soundboard
cool.
of improv. So.
And then also make sure to check out Dunedin Brewery and all the amazing things they got going on.
Yeah, follow that one.
Support all the amazing bands and live music in Florida and across the board. Some of the artists that come through there just blow my fucking mind, man.
It's
so love
Disney
what you're
World
doing.
for
Me too.
musicians.
Me too.
I say it every time. I fucking love that place more than anything. It's the most magical place.
Hell yeah.
Hey, hearing that is exactly why I do it.
Yeah.
And I can say with certainty it's one of my favorite places to play, and that's from having played all across the country. Your spot, man. I love it. From the hospitality to the vibe to everything. It's an amazing spot.
Bring back the bunk beds. That's all I'm trying to say.
I still have the bunk beds. We're
Fucking
working
hey,
on that.
bring them back,
Yeah,
dude. Get
that's
that
gonna be Airbnb. We'll have another spot for you.
Bring back the bunk bed.
Just make sure you get the bunk beds with like the therapeutic therapeutic mattresses. There's
Yeah.
2 of them like that, and then 2 are hard as rocks. So
I know which one's which.
I know you. do.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Adios,
Appreciate it, guys.
muchachos.